Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 4th annual DCRIT conference, where we celebrate the work of our graduating students and invite some of the best respected figures in the larger world of design criticism to help guide our discussion about what emerging design critics should be attending to, why, and how. I'm Alice Twemlow, Chair of the MFA in Design Criticism at the School of Visual Arts. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's very nice to see you all here. And it really warms my heart to see you all here today. And those of us, you watching at home on live stream. Hi, Mum. Hi, Dad. By being here, you support the work of DCRIT and its students. But you also support the very enterprise and the ambition of design criticism. And that's always been a goal of this program. We've really tried to cultivate a community for design criticism, a locus for discussion about all aspects of the designed environment. We do this a number of ways, through publishing. Here are our chapbooks, our design files publishing partnership with the Cooper Hewitt, an ad hoc publication of curated tweets we put out last year, and our online reading room. There's our free weekly lecture series, where over the past 4 years we've hosted more than 100 speakers and more than 5,000 guests, and all the lectures are available on Vimeo. We also extend our work into the community through our summer programs. Last year we launched a 2-week design writing and research intensive, and we're doing it again next month. Instructors like Rob Walker, Mimi Ziega, Robin Pograbin, Carrie Jacobs, and Adam Harrison-Levi will be leading us around town to examine all kinds of infrastructure and sites, archives, exhibitions, and design studios. And of course, we host this annual conference, not just to torture the students by making them present in front of so many people, but to gather an engaged public to talk about the things that matter. And so because I know you all care about the things that matter, I know you won't mind me urging you to apply to the program. We've sweetened the deal with new scholarships and a fast-track application process. So if you're intrigued by the idea of studying with the best minds in the business or learning to tell compelling stories about design, I exhort you to take the plunge and apply. Because while it's important for us to foster this wider community for design criticism in the ways I've just mentioned, it's even more vital to nurture the core of the discipline by training excellent design critics to get out there in the field and shape the discourse. And should you take the leap, be assured you'll be following in some very nicely formed footsteps. Allow me to introduce you to just a few of the DCRIT graduates who are making strides in the worlds of curation, publishing, and education. Here's Amelie Zedarek. Amelie came to DCRIT already as an accomplished journalist. She was working at Depress in Vienna. She used DCRIT to pivot her career toward curation. And 2 months after graduation, she was appointed curator at the Vitra Design Museum in Germany. Not bad. She's already curated several shows and is working on another one about contemporary design and architecture in Africa. Her larger mission is to establish design as a cultural discipline rather than a branch of lifestyle journalism, which she's pretty fed up with. Amelie's travelled to the conference to be with us today with the newest DCRIT member, baby Selma, so welcome, Amelie. This is Vera Sacchetti. You may remember her as the one who took on the entire social design movement for its lack of post-occupancy critique. Today she's based in Milan, working as the editor of the international website of Domus magazine. She also just co-edited the catalogue of Joseph Griemer's Adhocracy exhibition, which recently opened here at the New Museum. Vera is also a member of one of my favourite outputs from DCRIT, the design editorial and research consultancy, Superscript. The other founding members are Eileen Kwun, who is also communication at Project Projects, who are probably here today, they're loyal fans. Very good. Avi Rajagopal, associate editor at Metropolis magazine. And Molly Heinz, who actually quit her job as managing editor of the Architect's newspaper to devote herself fully to running Superscript. In addition to their plentiful commissions by the likes of Rockwell Group, MoMA and Pentagram, they run this really great architecture and design book club with special guests and other events like the panel discussion they organised on Thursday night at the Museum of Art and Design. There they were discussing the future of design museums. And speaking of design museums, here's Barbara Eldridge. Last year she asked, why is it that contemporary design museums don't collect guns? She used this simple question to open up a rich investigation into the world of museum collecting ethics, and in the process scored herself an assisting role in Paola Antonelli's new R&D department at MoMA. So these are just a handful of the paths that DCRIT graduates have followed. Others are publishing books, teaching, researching, doing PhDs, working in design firms, recruiting, you name it. This was actually last night at the launch of the second edition of Frederico Duarte's fantastic book about Portuguese confectionery, Fabrico por Pico. And I probably said that wrong, but anyway. And there's DCRIT faculty member Akiko Bush interviewing Fred, and I couldn't help but noticing that behind them was another book. There it is, Will Meyer's Bio Design. And soon everyone started finding their books. So these are all some of the DCRIT books that were appearing. And one of the traditions that has emerged around this conference is that graduates of the program, however far-flung they may be, return to the coop for this weekend. And I really appreciate that. Here are some of us last night: Fred from Lisbon, Vera from Milan, Mike from LA. I think Sarah Freilich arrived this morning from Cincinnati. It's great to have you all back for a while. But now I feel it's time we met this year's crop of students waiting so anxiously here in the wings. The conception and organisation of this conference is actually one of the second year's classes, because I believe that alongside modes of delivery, such as the podcast, video essay, and the exhibition, the live event is an increasingly viable medium at the critic's disposal. It's always a lot of fun to put together this conference with the graduating students, but there's also a great deal of hard work that happens behind the scenes. We owe a debt of thanks to all kinds of people. First and foremost, Emily Wiener, out there at the front. Hey, very good. I hope she can hear that. She's an artist, writer, educator, and, quite honestly, the unflappable mainstay of HMS DCRIT. It's also great to have on board our trusty systems administrator, Victor de la Cruz. You'll see him running around today, stage managing, videoing, live streaming, tweeting, and always smiling. I co-founded this program with Steve Heller back in 2008, and I've enjoyed every minute of our collaboration ever since. I'm also grateful to Steve for bringing me into the SVA fold, absolutely the most warmest, most loyal working community you're likely to find, due to the wisdom and generosity of those who shepherd it, David Rhodes, along with Anthony Rhodes and Jeff Neeson. Matthew Rezac, our design man in the Midwest, came up trumps again with another beautiful conference identity. It's an absolute pleasure to work with him out there. Also designing the website this year was Eric Price at the Walker Art Center. It's fabulous. I mean, you really have to feel for these designers. Imagine having a whole program of design critics as your client. It's always great to be in this top-notch theatre, thanks to the pros who run it. Tony Chu, so it's all right, we can do big claps at the end, you don't feel obligated, there's a lot of thank yous. Tony Chu has designed our cloud of tweets, which will be descending onto our screen during the breaks. Please tweet away using hashtag DCRIT2013. And thanks so much to Michael George for photographing the event. This is my best side. So today's event is the culmination of a long process. Students have been working to research and write their theses since this time last year. They've been lucky enough to work with Andrea Codrington-Lipke and get her weekly servings of enthusiasm and erudition and therapy. And they've worked with Peter Hall, now based in Brisbane, Australia, but still a vital intellectual force in the department, thanks to the miracle of Skype. Two of our students worked with external advisors, Daniel Doker from Interborough Partners and Rick Poyner from England. And along the way, they've been visited by guest critics, Charles Adler of Kickstarter, Koivin from Etsy, as well as DCRIT grad editor and educator Alan Rapp, and architectural theorist Meredith Ten Hoare. Finally, they met with Stephen Nixon, who helped them turn their 10,000-word thesis into the taught presentations that you'll be seeing today. If you want more of the meat of their presentations, you can, of their thesis, you can read the extracts of the written thesis in the brochure. And I'm sure if there are any commissioning editors in the audience, you'll be able to read the books soon too. And here's the DCRIT faculty, which I always must thank, and I'm always just gobsmacked when I see this list. It's such a remarkably talented and generous group of people who figure in DCRIT's lives as instructors, mentors, employers, and colleagues. Thank you so much to you all. Thanks to our first-year students who are staffing this year's conference as a kind of karmic pay-ahead for their turn up here next year. And we got some supporting partners this year, which is very cool. So thank you to MailChimp, Adobe, Typekit, Beth, Dixtine. Thanks for helping us do this. This evening, we'll be holding a reception at the uber-cool Swiss Institute Gallery in Soho. And after some cocktails provided by Art in the Age craft spirits, we may well be able to actually read the Swiss Institute logo. The refreshing iced coffees in the lobby come courtesy of Le Colombe Coffee Roasters, and the vegetal chairs that will be appearing on the stage later come courtesy of the Burilek brothers via Vitra, of course. Thank you. Thanks to our media partner, Core 77, read them often, and enter their competitions, especially since they have a design, writing, and commentary category now. It's also, of course, fun to be part of the citywide design fever that is NYC Design. I'm sure I'll be seeing a lot of you over the next few days at the other events. And thanks to Moleskine for some really nice speaker gifts and this sketchbook, which we invite you to add to, and we have got some special illustrators working on right now, and we'll be photographing throughout the afternoon. Thank you in advance to our guest speakers. What a lineup. And congratulations to Michael Sorkin for his National Design Award for his Design Mind, just announced this week. Okay, as you were walking into the theatre earlier, you were listening to some music by this guy. Moondog was a blind street performer whose experimental music influenced a whole generation of minimalist composers, Steve Reich, Philip Glass, and on. Moondog loved to use counterpoint in his compositions. In music, counterpoint, as I understand it, as a music lame person, is when you have more than one line of notes happening at the same time. These lines work together harmonically, but each are different, very distinct in their rhythm and pitch. They work against each other, note against note. So I thought we could just hear a little bit of Moondog's Bird's Lament. We're going to hear it via Mr. Scruff's remix to remind us just of what that sounds like. Okay, we get the idea. It's nice, eh? Get going. There is something in the spirit of counterpoint that corresponds to design criticism in general, when we write alongside and into the words of other critics, creating moments of dissonance. And there's something in the essence of musical counterpoint that corresponds to what we'll be doing here today. This year, the students decided to group themselves in pairs, each with a guest speaker whose research interests intersect with their own, but whose views might diverge in interesting ways. So our guest speakers will talk for 20 minutes. Students have precisely 8.5 minutes. And then they'll be joining the moderator for a Q&A. And you may note that we have a quite nice progression of subject matter from graphic design to product design to architecture to urban planning and then to nature. A sort of, decret homage to Powers of 10 going on there. I'm just thrilled to be introducing our moderator for the afternoon. John Hockenberry has been host or correspondent for half a dozen network programs, including All Things Considered and Morning Edition on NPR, and Edgewise, Hockenberry, and Dateline NBC on NBC News. Holder of 4 Emmy Awards and 4 Peabody Awards for journalism, he's also a celebrated speaker at the TED Conference and has argued for disability rights at the United Nations and the White House. Since 2008, John has been the founding host of the public radio morning news program, The Takeaway. As listeners know, John has evolved a multidimensional voice for the program, one that seems to shift effortlessly between registers, warm, humorous, and inclusive, but also hard-nosed and tough when needed. Something his takeaway listeners might not know is that John is also a thoughtful commentator on design. His father, Jack Hockenberry, practiced as an industrial designer, and John has written and spoken about all aspects of design, including the wheelchair as a difficult design object. I'm lucky enough to have worked with John on some conferences I organised when I worked at the AIGA. At the Voice conference back in 2002, I asked the illustrator Peter Arkle to record some of what he heard at the conference. This is how John was immortalised. And here's me. As you can see, neither of us came off very well. I don't recall if I ever got that toast, but I do remember enjoying wearing that headset. We need to get that for next year. And I do remember enjoying working with John. I would throw all kinds of speakers at him, and no matter how wacky or waffly they were, he would always manage to get to the heart of the matter and draw them out on what was at stake in their work, and why and how it mattered to other human beings. This drawing out of people's voices is a skill that, when done well, is all but invisible. But because at Decrit we value reporting as the bedrock of criticism, and learn, among other skills, how to interview, we take note. Here, to conduct us through the notes of this afternoon's counterpuntal score, is the maestro of moderation himself. Please help me welcome the one and only John Hockenberry.